welcome to another video. Again we're talking about soulmate astrology, and as I said before in my other videos, we're not talking so much about theory, where you can find different kind of soulmate relationships, what indicators you can find. If you're interested in that, please check out my other video about different kind of soul connections or divine counterparts. There I will go into theory. This is going to be more a practical video again, and once more we're going to talk about Brad Pitt. Why? Because in some, I think like Facebook groups or YouTube comments, I don't really remember, I read that some people think that Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston might be twin flames. Also Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. And I also already did Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow. I didn't mean to do that. I just accidentally clicked on their horoscope and saw some interesting stuff. So I already did that video. You can, of course, watch it. But today it is going to be Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston that we are going to do. And by the way, you can, of course, book your own analysis just like that. You can contact me. You will find my contact information in the description box below, but also in the About Me page, and then you can book exactly what we're going to do here. And if you don't have your person's exact birth time, I would advise you to check out the video I did on Jason Momoa and Lisa Bonet, because in that video I only had Lisa's exact birth time and not Jason's, and then you can see what I can do when I only have one person's exact birth time. But that I will need, and will need at least one person's exact time. When I'm talking about your person, it does not have to be a divine counterpart romantically. It could be a family member or your best friend or anybody you just want to see if you do have hints, traces in your birth chart and in your horoscope when it comes to indicators for soulmate relationships. And spoiler alert, we do have some here with Brad and Jennifer, of course. And just like in the other videos, we're going to analyze this in 3 steps. The first step is analyzing them individually. Here we have Brad Pitt and there we have Jennifer Aniston, because in twin flames you would find a lot of similar energy going on with all of the planets, and in monadic twin flames you will find a lot of yin yang energy, and in the split twin flames you will find a lot of sameness but also opposites. And if you want to know more about that, again, please check out my video about divine counterpart connections, different connections. There is a part dedicated to astrology where I can where I show you how you can identify different kind of divine counterpart connections. Even though with soulmates it's a bit more difficult, because soulmates it's more like a mixed bag. You can have pretty much any signs when it comes to even a strong soulmate. What is more important then is that you have a lot of context between the planets, as we do see here. But let's dive right in. As I did in the other videos, I created this little how do you call it, diagram? It's not a diagram, doesn't matter. I created this to analyze the energies, and we're not going to talk about all of them. I mean, you can read it here, but as many soulmates, and you will see that we do have the same thing going on with Lisa Bonet and Jason Momoa, and also Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow. It is a very common thing that one person's sun, moon and rising sign appears in the other person sun, moon, rising sign as well. That is something that is very, very common. So the 3 most important parts about our charts are the first 3, sun, moon, rising. Next important parts are Mercury, Venus, Mars. Not as important are these signs not when we're talking about synastry, what we're going to talk about later, but when we are comparing the energy, because those are very slow moving energies and they stay in a sign for years. So many people who would be born in the same year would share that, so we can't discard that in this part. Actually, I just wanted to include it so we have the whole picture, because in twin flames everything will be connected, like all of that would be connected somehow. Then we're talking about soulmate and any kind of divine counterpart or soulmate relationship. Very important, of course, are Juno, Eris, Psyche, and the notes. And also, of course, Chiron. I don't have Chiron in here because with Chiron it's not as important if you have similar energy. With Chiron it's important, do you have context to the personal planets of the other person. And as I said before, we see Brad has Sun and the AC in Sagittarius, and she's got it as well in with her moon sign. So as I said before, that is something that is very, very common in any kind of soulmate relationship. So also in often sibling, like family members or your best friend. And for example, I am a Virgo sun and my best friend, she's got the moon in Virgo. So that is something you would most likely find also with relatives who are often, of course, soulmates. For example, I'm a Gemini rising, and not just my twin flame, but also one of my brothers are a Gemini sun. So we do share this Gemini energy. And also I am a Virgo sun and moon in Aquarius, and my mom is the opposite. She is a Aquarius sun and moon in Virgo. That by itself, I need to point out, does not always mean that you do get along, but you will find a lot of that. Even more, I am a Virgo sun and my grandma was a Virgo sun. My grandfather, she's still alive. My grandfather, he was a Taurus sun, and my brother is a Taurus sun as well. So you will have a lot of similar energy going on in your family if you would like to check that out. A little excursus here. I prepared a tiny thing about Johnny Depp, Vanessa Paradis, and their child, or one of their children, Lily Rose. I did not include Jack here. First of all, he was not on that side. I probably could have found out his exact birth date and at least find out his sun and moon sign, but I think he doesn't want to be in the public, so we're just going to respect that. But you will see it here as well. Johnny Depp is a Gemini sun and Capricorn moon, and Vanessa, she's a Capricorn sun. So they have this shared Capricorn energy, and their child is a Gemini sun, just like her father, and she's got Scorpio, just like her mom. And this guy Samuel, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, is Vanessa's husband. And look, she's got the Cancer moon and he's got a Cancer sun, so they have that going AC. So that is something you will find a lot in soul connections, that the sun, moon, and rising sign are somewhat connected. By the way, just for fun, I did analyze Johnny Depp and Scamber. I'm not going to say her real name, and also I'm not going to do a video on them, because I think this woman doesn't deserve any kind of attention, and they didn't have that. But also just a little thing, I'm not going to go into depth here, but if you look at their synastry, it is so obvious which one of them is the violent person. You can check out their Mars signs, and Johnny Depp's Mars is connected only in positive ways to Amber's planet. I think it was her sun, which means that he put a lot of energy in supporting her. But we also have this, sorry for the little detour, but I thought it was interesting. We do have a connection. It is her Mars connected to his moon in synastry. They have a conjunction. And here you can, it's obvious. That doesn't necessarily mean that there is violence. But if there's violence, it is the Mars person. In that case, it would be Scamber. And yeah, it can cause a lot of tension. We do have that here. And yeah, anyway, there's a lot of that going on. So, and that is just one of the aspects. You will find other aspects. You will find some serious gold digger energy, and Amber's horoscope also, that her sun, I believe, was conjuncting his midheaven, meaning she wanted that public attention. So you will find a lot about that. And yeah, the Mars person, again, that would be Scamber. Sees the Moon person, that would be Johnny, as a kind of mothering figure. It can cause the Mars person to just want more of the Moon person's love and caring nature, and Johnny Depp is known for being very loving and caring. So yeah, anyway, it's if there's like fighting going on, it is the tension coming more from the Mars person. And it says there may be exciting parts, they need more gentle aspects, and they just don't have that. And also the Mars person is usually the one who initiates things. And yeah, we do have aggressive and spiky, which would be the Mars person. Can hurt the Moon person. Moon person again would be Johnny, so he was the one who got hurt. And we have the power imbalance, of course. The Moon person can be very emotionally vulnerable, can easily be hurt. Again, that would be Johnny. And that is very interesting. Keep in mind, the Moon person doesn't always seem like the vulnerable person to outsiders. And this dynamic exists specifically in a relationship. And that just reminds me of those tapes where that woman basically said, just tell everybody, Johnny, that you're a victim of domestic abuse. Nobody's going to believe you because you're a man. So yeah, that is like one of the aspects in the horoscope where you can see that playing out, and he's the one who needed security. Yeah. Passive aggressive behavior here. Again, you see how interesting astrology can be. We have rocky, different passions running high, and passion can be a good thing, but also the other way around, bulldozing the Moon person. Again, Johnny was the Moon person. And yeah, we have attacking, and never mind. Anyway, it was just a tiny detour to show you about how astrology basically can indicate things like that. And that was just one aspect, just one out of several, but this one I thought was very, very important. And I think this is kind of like very interesting, that because when you have a similar sun, moon and rising sign, that means that you vibrate in a similar energy, and that means you kind of like get each other. And that's, as I said before, something you will find in many close soul mate relationships, any kind. And yeah, we do have it here. We have the Sagittarius sun, and with her sun and AC, yeah, with her it's the moon. Also, they have the what did it say here? Moon in the same houses. They have the moon in the Taurus house. So that is again similar energy when it comes to their moons. They may be in different signs, Sagittarius and Capricorn, but they're in the same house. And of course also in the opposite house. And then Libra in opposite houses. What did I say there? She's a Libra rising. And what did I do there about Libra? Oh, here. He's got the sun in the first house, which means the opposite house would be Libra. This is not a very strong aspect, but those two, the Sagittarius energy and moon in the same houses, that is something that is very strong. Then we do have his Mercury in Capricorn, and the opposite of Capricorn is Cancer, and she's got it in the Cancer house, and that could be one of the opposing, like complementary energies. So it's the opposite sign and house. And then we have Jupiter. Jupiter, as I said before, you can kind of neglect. I just wanted to show you the whole picture, because with true monadic twin flames, everything would be connected. It would all be bored, basically. He's got Jupiter in Aries, and she's got it in Libra, which is the opposite of Aries. Then we do have Uranus in Pisces, and not in Pisces, in Virgo. The opposite would be Pisces, and she's got it in the 12th house, which would be the Pisces house. As I said before, those are not too important. We got Neptune, both have it in Scorpio. I think they were both born in the 60s, so that is not surprising. Again, Virgo in the same sign is not surprising when they were born in the same decade, basically. Then, yeah, he's got Juno in Scorpio. Juno is very important when it comes to divine counterpart astrology, because Juno shows you who is meant for you. And very often we do have something that has strong energy of the other person, and she's got Juno in Capricorn, and Brad has the moon in Capricorn. He's got Mercury in Capricorn, Venus and Mars. So Brad has strong Capricorn energy. So this is kind of like a match with Jennifer, that her destined person has Capricorn. And very often it doesn't mean that his destined person has to be Scorpio energy. Probably, most likely, one of them has a Juno sign that shows strong energy of the other person. They have Eris in the same sign. Usually what we want is somebody's Eris and the other person's Psyche in the same sign. We don't have that going on here, because Eris and Psyche in itself are divine counterparts. So you want them either in the same sign or kind of like trining each other, having a positive connection. Remember, this would be not a planet, they're asteroids. With asteroids you want to keep the orb very tight, maximum a 2-degree orb. Anyway, they do have the same Aquarius sign, so there's some similarity going on here. He's got Psyche in Sagittarius, the opposite would be Gemini, and she's got it in the 3rd house, so again they do have some opposing energy. And the north nodes, the nodes are going into not different signs but houses. He's got the north node in the 7th house, and she's coming from Libra, which would be the energy connected to the 7th house. So they're kind of like going in different directions, even if it's not directly the signs, but it is the houses. Houses are important when it comes to the nodes as well, because the nodes take like 19 years for one going around the zodiac once, for one tour, you could say. Which means that people who are born in the same year are most likely the same north node sign, so that is not as important. But anyway, they do have opposite energies when it comes to the nodes. Let's check out the elements, if there are matches. We do have his sun, fire, and then we have air here, which means it's a no. We've got okay here, so you see all of those are no's. We've got okay here because it's the same sign, so they can't be a trine. I was looking here if they have matching elements, and here it would be a yes if one of them would have it in Pisces or Cancer, but they both have it in Scorpio, so we do have an okay here and here as well when it comes to Pluto. And then with Aries again, because it's the same sign, it's not really a complementary sign. Here you do see the elements, and you can tell if fire and water are counterparts, or it would be monadic counterparts, and air and earth, and those would be more like split twin energy. I was looking for monadic twins. And here we have a yes when it comes to Capricorn and Aquarius. Why is it a yes? Because they have Mercury both in Saturn signs. He's got it in Capricorn, which is the yin, the feminine aspect of Saturn, and he's got it in Aquarius, which would be the masculine aspect of Saturn, the Saturn sign. Here again it is the signs. We have Virgo, which is air, earth and air, and you see air and earth are counterpart energy, but for Virgo, because Virgo and Gemini are both ruled by Mercury. And here we have another okay. It is we have water and fire, those are the emotional signs, but for Cancer the counterparts would be Leo, and for Aries it would be Scorpio, since both are ruled by Mars. So we do see that there is some similarity. I think he has more similarities with her, or stronger similarities, than he had with Gwyneth Paltrow. You can check out that video. So here you can see, yes, it looks like soulmate energy. It doesn't look like twin flame energy, but here they have similar energies, and especially important, as I said, are those ones. And then we do have this Capricorn connection, which is a strong hint for divine counterpart energy. Here we don't have it, but we've got still something going on here that can indicate, yes, there is a special connection. This as well, even though they're going to different direction. I think we had it similar with Brad and Gwyneth. There it was the opposing signs and not connected to houses, and that actually can be something good, because if Brad wants to learn more about Libra energy, because he's got it in the 7th house, and then he's meeting Jennifer, who's coming from the 7th house energy, so she already knows, she already learned this, and she wants to go to the Aries energy, and he's coming from the 1st house, which is Aries energy. So when they meet, they can teach each other, because the other person wants to know about where the other person has been, what the other person knows. So that is something that can work out. So let's go to the Synastry. Give me a moment, I need to sip my tea. Okay. So again, we've got them individually. I'm not going to analyze their individual energies too much in this reading, because that would be too long. However, I mean, Sun in the 1st house, that is why he is so handsome. That is a handsome, very handsome, how do you call it, aspect. Let's go here to Synastry. I do have the asteroid chart as well. We're going to look at that when we're going to look at the asteroids, but let's start here. You can actually see his sun and her moon are conjunct. You can see it here. It is, his sun is in Sagittarius at 25 degree and her moon is 23 degree. That's a tight conjunction for sun and moon energy. So this is definitely even strengthening the aspect of soulmate energy, that we have the sun and moon in the same sign, because those planets are actually even conjunct. Her moon is not conjuncting his rising sign, but that is okay. Sun and moon are even more important. Another thing I noticed quickly was that his moon, by the way, Brad Pitt is the blue one and Jennifer Aniston would be the orange one. We do see his moon over here forming a trine with her Pluto. That is something I do like a lot, basically, because that also indicates to me a strong, because it's a trine is a positive aspect. We're also going to talk about squares, because we do have the same thing going on. Unfortunately for them, the square, it's her moon is squaring his Pluto, and that is something I don't like when we're talking about soulmate astrology. However, it still can work, because they do have a trine as well, and squares are kind of related to karma, and the problem is Pluto is connected to karma as well. So having a square connection between Pluto and another person's personal planet, especially of course if it's like sun and moon, that can hint, it's like a double karma. And by the way, karma is not something that necessarily has to be toxic. It can be, especially a square between one person's Pluto and the other person's moon However, it is something that can be overcome if you have other indicators that are talking about something that is very positive. And we do have that here with this beautiful Moon Pluto trine. And Moon Pluto trines are talking about a very emotional connection. It can talk about love at first sight, this deep, deep bond, because Pluto is ruling Scorpio, and it is the planet of the deepest possible emotions. Unfortunately, it can go either way. It can be very light or very dark. There is no in between. Pluto is the planet of extremes and also of transformation. And it is connected to Scorpio, which in Tarot is connected to death, the death card. And death is constant transformation, constant leaving all shadows behind. Pluto is the planet of shadow work. And that is why Scorpio has 3 aspects like no other planet, no other sign does. Scorpio can be scorpionic energy, which is a dark energy. However, when there has been some awakening and transforming, it can turn into the eagle, which is connected to the higher self and to spirituality, of course. And then it can rise even higher into the phoenix energy. That is the highest octave. That is the truly awakened person. So Scorpio energy has the strongest chance of deep transformation and awakening. But by going through the shadow, by going through the shadow work and healing and transforming. So that is something that is an amazing aspect in soulmate astrology, because soulmates often do meet in order to transform one another's life and to heal their stuff, you could basically say. However, they have one very, very beautiful connection here, and the other one is a bit more triggering. So this transformation may have been easier for Brad than it has been for Jennifer, you could say. Maybe he had less shadows to begin with, I don't know. But for him, it could have been a very, very deep transform for both of them. Because, again, squares are a bit more difficult, yes. But if they would have managed to tap more into this energy that they do share, because it is one person's Pluto, the other person's Moon. So they do share this energy, and they do share the possibility to transform. However, there is some difficulties connected, because Moon and Pluto squares can be toxic. I don't think we do talk about a very toxic connection here, because again we do have this beautiful connection here between the Sun and the Moon, and the Sun energy is very supportive of the Moon energy, and that would be an indication of it not being toxic in my opinion. Especially again, they do have this aspect to even it out. But if it would have been by itself, it could be something that is controlling, or some kind of codependence could have been going on here. Another thing I noticed is that her Moon is falling into Brad's first house, and that is something I absolutely love. And when we're talking about divine counterparts, I love connections between the Venus houses and the Mars houses, which would be the first, the second, the 7th and 8th house. However, any house, any house connection could be a positive or a negative thing, like even those ones I mentioned, because it also depends on, is this a healthy Moon? I mean, she's got some does she, wait, let's check her out. No. Her Moon, well, she's got a sextile between her Sun and her Moon, which is something that is beautiful. Oh, you see, she's got this as well in her own chart, that she has problems transforming some stuff. So this aspect is basically translating into their synastry. But overall, yeah, she's got some love. I mean, she's had difficulties finding love, right? We do have that with this square going on. And no, it's not, sorry, it's not a square. It's not a square. Venus is not connected here, sorry, never mind. But she's got a square when it comes to her emotions and her North Node. So this is something that she wanted to learn, to be more emotional open, or finding that emotional fulfillment. However, I would not call this a unhealthy moon, because we do have no strong like squares to her personal planets. We do have a sextile to her sun, which is a very, very strong aspect, and also you can see it's both at 23 degree over here. So this is a very, very strong aspect. So this is not an unhealthy moon that is falling into his first house. An unhealthy planet falling to another person's first house can do serious damage. The first house is, you can say, our confidence as well. It's our physical attraction. So there is strong physical attraction going on here. But it's also, I always say it, when we do have something like that falling into the other person's first house, it's like being their cheerleader. It would be even stronger when it is the sun. But this basically shows some kind of emotional fulfillment. And the second house, again, everything can go either way. The second house is connected to money and worth, but also self-worth, and it is a Venus house. So the second house is one of the love houses. So having somebody's sun or Venus in one of the love houses can be a very, very beautiful thing. That is why I like it. However, if it's an unhealthy, a conflicted sun or moon, it can cause serious damage, and it could be a gold digger, basically, indication if it's an unhealthy sun or moon, because then that person would be more taking from the house person, or just valuing the house person because there is some financial gain or some gain to get. But if it's a positive aspect, and for example my twin flame and I do have that as well, that would be beautiful, because it is good for doing any kind of, well, it's connected to money. So the house person, the sun person would inspire the house person to become better, to maybe get that promotion or change their job to their dream job, or they work together, or especially if the house person would be an artist, because it's a Venus house, that could trigger the creative process. So somebody's sun or moon in the other person's second house would boost their self-esteem, but not so much when it comes to their physical appearance. It would be the first house, but more when it comes to their own inner worth. So that is something amazing of teaching the other person more self-worth, shining a light on that, but also being like a muse for the other person if that person is creative. But also if they're not, it doesn't have to be in any kind of creativity. It could be a muse to inspiring somebody to get, I don't know, that banker's degree or whatever it is. So that is a beautiful aspect as well. The seventh house, of course, is the house of relationship. So if somebody's moon or sun is falling into the other person's seventh house, that is amazing. It's a very harmonious connection. And the eighth house is the deepest emotion. It can be toxic if it's inflicted, like an unhealthy aspect falling into the other person's eighth house, that can create serious damage. That would be toxic. But if it's a healthy connection, then that is the deepest possible love that can happen here. So again, somebody's moon falling into the other person's first house is something that is very, very positive. We see his moon is falling into her third house, and also his sun is falling into her third house, and her sun is falling into his third house, which is not a romantic placement at all. It's the Gemini house, and that is good, however, for good communication. It's the house of siblings, so it could be like a brother-sister kind of dynamic going on. It's very good for business, of course. It's very good for any kind of communication. It is good for a student-teacher dynamic. The ninth house as well, of course, because that is about higher education. It's very good for any kind of education or stimulating the other person on an intellectual level. So that indicates basically, yeah, very good communication. And we do have this mirroring going on because, again, it's both both person's sun in the other person's third house. We had a similar aspect with Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow, where both person's suns were in the other person's 10th house. So that is something that is very, very positive when it comes to intellectual stimulation. So they seem like a match in that department. Maybe they had similar interests. The third house and the sixth house would be the Mercury houses. I like it a lot when we do have the Mars houses, which would be the first and the eighth. The eighth house is a Mars and a Pluto house, and the Venus houses would be the second and the seventh. So having a personal, because Mars, of course, it's connected to sexuality, but also to emotion. It's an emotional bond that you form. Passion is emotion. So having a personal planet falling into the other person's emotional houses, again, first, second, seventh, and eighth, is a good sign, but only, of course, if it is a healthy aspect. So again, they were intellectually compatible, good conversations. What I did notice, talking about seventh houses, is that they don't have any seventh houses contacts. We don't have anything of Brad's falling into her seventh house, and yeah, we do have Lilith, but no really personal planets falling into his seventh house, nor his eighth, and his vertex, however, is in her eighth. That is something that can also indicate some kind of soul recognition or intense connection. That Pluto can be connected to fate. The eighth house can be connected to fate, and vertex is connected to fate. So that can show that there is something. Fatal sounds wrong. Fatal is something bad, right? So not fatal, but something connected to fate going on there. Then I noticed that her Jupiter, Jupiter, is in his 10th house. Oh, I just noticed they have a Jupiter opposition. Kind of like meaning standing in each other's way, or like their image, of course, depended on each other's image fortune. I'm talking about image because we are talking about the 10th house, which means he kind of contributed to his positive image, because the 10th house is, especially for celebrities, very, very important. It is our public image. What I also noticed is we don't have any North Node connection here for Brad. We do have, however, a very weak square between the nodes. You don't see here. It's a very weak square because you can tell the nodes are at 12 degree and 2 degrees. So that's a 10 degree orb. It's a weak connection. But it kind of shows that maybe the again are a bit opposite when it comes to here. It's just highlighting what we had here, that they're going to different directions. And wait, I've got her North Node. Yeah, her North Node is connected to his Jupiter, which kind of like means that she could have been very Jupiter is the planet of luck, of enhancing things, which indicates that even though she had her difficulties in really transforming, this connection was very, very important for her soul journey, and it did bring her some kind of epiphany, some kind of luck with this connection here. Then I wrote down, we do have her Venus. Where's her Venus? Her Venus is here. Okay, yeah, and her Venus is of course also connected to his Jupiter, which means that she did love him. There was love, there was this hope for this long-lasting, expanding relationship. However, we do have a tension going on here between her Venus and his South Node. So there has been some kind of conflict. It's like she gained more, and by that I don't mean like that she was using him, but looking back, she gained more lessons. These aspects are a bit difficult because she did learn a lot. However, we do have this aspect that shows that maybe in some ways he was holding her back because they were not on the same page in some aspects. I'm sorry, I kind of like lost my focus for a second. It's always difficult when we do have squares with our North Nodes, because the North Node is our karma, it's where we want to go, and squares kind of like mean holding each other back. But then we have Jupiter here, so it was like a bit of a mismatch. She did gain something from it, but at the same time there was some holding back at the same time. And as I said before, squares is something that can be overcome, but it's not always that easy. The square between her Venus and his Mars can also cause some kind of sexual tension. That can be good. We don't always want trines there. I mean, again, this is a bit of a double-edged sword. Trines, super harmonious, which is kind of what you want, but when we're talking about sexuality, it can get boring because it is super harmonious unless you're into that. A square can talk about some kind of sexual tension where you do experience different thing, or you do experiment. That's what I wanted to say. So that is something that can be good, but again, it is how do you use it. It can be used for good, it can be used for bad, like many things. What I noticed, however, and that is something good, besides this square, they do have some squares, but not really between personal planets, and that's a good thing. Which means, yeah, there is some karmic stuff going on here. And again, karma is nothing bad, it's just something that is unhealed and that is brought to light. We do have it with the nodes indicated there and with Pluto, but not with other personal planets, so that is a good thing. Another thing I noticed is that we don't have any vortex connections for neither one of them, which means, yeah, there is some kind of fate, but it's not like this big boom bang kind of fate like you would have in a twin flame connection, for example. Yeah, there is no North Node connections between and except for this part, but this is not a personal planet. And let's talk about the asteroids. There is no Juno connections going on. I checked that. We do have Juno here. That's her Juno. And it looks like his sun is pretty close, but it's actually not. It's at 25 degree and her Juno is at 1 degree. Wait, is this Juno? It's her Juno. Yeah, that would be a 6 degree orb, and that is just too much. With asteroids, we don't want more than 2 degree orbs. Then his Juno is over here. You could think it's close to his Mars, to her Mars, but again, it's not. It's like 23 degree in Scorpio, and his Juno is 16 degree. I mean, that's a 7 degree orb. So we have no Juno connections. And again, Juno is something that is very important for soulmates. However, we discovered that her Juno is in Capricorn, and he's got a lot of Capricorn going on here. So that is still a good aspect, but it would be even stronger if we would have a Juno connection. But what they do have is Brad's Eros and her Juno. Where was his her Juno? Wait, here. Sorry, it's not Juno. What did I write down? Juno? Give me a second. I wrote down Brad's Eros here is connected to her Juno. Oh yeah, it's no, wait, what did I write down here? Brad's Eros is over here at 20-degree Aquarius. And she's got the sun, yes, of course, the sun. She's got the sun at 23 degrees Aries. It's a 3-degree orb. So they do have a connection between one of these soulmate asteroids and her sun. Even though 3-degree orb, it's almost a bit too far apart. Then we do have Brad's Psyche in Aquarius. Where is it? Give me a second. Why did I write down Psyche? Brad's Psyche and her moon. Oh, it's here. It's in the. I don't know why I wrote down Aquarius. It's her moon and his Psyche. Her moon is a 23-degree Aquarius and his Psyche as well. So that is spot on. Which means that there is something deep emotional going on between them too, because the moons are emotions and Psyche again is one of the soulmate asteroids. So we do have this strong indication here. And then we do have it squaring Pluto though, which again is showing that there's some karma connected that needs to be overcome, that there needs to be some transformation going on. Also, I wrote down that her Psyche is... Where's her Psyche? Her Psyche is in Capricorn, 15-degree, yes, and he's got Mercury at 16-degree. Mercury is one of the personal planets, but it's more about the way we think, so it's not so much connected to love. But anyway, they do have soulmate connections going on there as well. He has a lot more than he has with Gwyneth, and also it looks a lot more harmonious than I kind of already looked at Angelina. I'm going to do that another time, but this is a mess. I mean, him and Angelina, that's a mess. We're going to look at that some other time. But anyway, they do have some strong, very, very strong soulmate connections. And yeah, I forgot basically one of the most important things. I wanted to talk about that more in the end, but I forgot about it. They do have some things that say that they could have made it work, like long term. Maybe someday they get back together, because they do have really aspects that can make it work if they do heal that little bit of some unhealed stuff more on Jennifer's part, I would say, because we do have Jennifer's sun conjuncting his Saturn, and that is Saturn, I always say, is connected to karma, yeah, but when it comes to positive connections and conjunctions are positive, that is an indication that a relationship can last a lifetime. So they do have that here. And also they have both Saturn sextiling, which means both kind of wanted the serious commitments. So this shows that they had a chance to last, and I looked it up earlier. They did last for 7 years, which is a long time, and that would be one of the reasons why. Also, of course, this is a very beautiful connection going on here. And then we have more. We do have Brad's sun over here is trining her Saturn. You see it over here, and that is, a trine is an amazing aspect between somebody's sun or personal planet and the other person's Saturn, because again, this is another aspect that can say about serious commitments that can last a lifetime, but a harmonious commitment. Then we do have her moon. I wrote down her moon is sextiling. Wait, her moon is, it's over here, it's sextiling his, Saturn here, another positive connection. Again, this can indicate a long lasting connection. The only thing we do see here is that her Saturn is squaring his moon. Here, we do have that going on here. And that actually may have been the reason why they didn't make it. Because Saturn moon squares often means that the moon person, in that case Brad, does not get emotionally satisfied, because Saturn can be a harsh planet, it's a cold planet, and the moons are emotions. And as I said before, Saturn can be connected to karma, and when we have a square, it often shows that the moon person is not getting emotionally fulfilled, which is unfortunately, because they do have so amazing connections that say they could have made it work. But I think, didn't he say like this connection was too boring for him? On some way he did not get emotionally fulfilled, and I think that is the make it or break it thing. Even though they do have a lot of aspects that show very long-lasting commitments, and the seriousness planet is Saturn is the planet of being serious in a serious commitment and relationship. But I think this is again one of the reasons why it didn't work out. But when you look at that, I know we do have some red lines. They're always there. That's okay. I don't see big drama going on here. This part is a bit unfortunate about the square with Pluto, but it is something that could have been worked through, because they have other aspects that talk about this transformation. And then we do have the the node squares. However, that is something that could have been worked through, because they do share some similarity when it comes to the nodes. Kind of sad that didn't make it work. But anyway, we do see the AC in Scorpio. This again is talking about a very deep bond, and it can go either way. Again, Scorpio energy is black and white, and when it's white, it is very emotional. This is again very transforming. It is something that can last, and you also see that the ascendant is not expected to any other planet, but that is something that can work out. And the negative side, if it would be aspected negatively, then it could be toxic. So always be careful with Scorpio 8th house energy. It can go either way. You need to see if it's harmonious or not. But also having the AC in Scorpio, it gives you a chance to transform. Kind of like didn't take it. And then we do have the North Node in the 7th house. The 7th house is commitment, it's relationship. So this again shows that they could have made it work, and it's in Taurus. Taurus is one of the Venus signs, so it's in the Venus house and the Venus sign. Another indication about they could have made it work long term. Then we were talking about transformation, Pluto. Look, we've got a very positive aspect between Pluto and the Sun and Mercury, which also highlights that they could have made it transform. However, squaring Mars can be a lack of really taking the initiation, doing the work of transforming to make it last with again here Saturn. Also we do have this this could indicate power struggles. They do have some very harmonious aspects, so I don't think that it was something like that was toxic, but again, that is something that could indicate something like that. The moon in the second house, I said it before, is something that I personally like. It's one of the Venus houses. It is kind of like getting a sense of self-worth through the connection, treating each other in a very worthy way. It can be, if it's negative, expected, can be again like a gold digging aspect. However, I think both of them had money, and I don't see it here. I mean, this is the composite, it's not the synastry. But we have it here with Jupiter and the opposition. That can again go either way, because Jupiter is the planet of luck, and when it's connected, it usually brings luck, even if it's not in a very harmonious connection. It is still something that can work out. But I think it transpired in that they couldn't make it last, because after a while they didn't get that luck from that emotional fulfillment anymore. Both wanted some. The moon in Capricorn, it's a Saturn house, and moon in Capricorn can be so serious. It can be so serious that it may be suffocating. I think that is, or may have been, one of the reasons why Brad left, because he may have been suffocated due to this seriousness, because it can feel like a burden, like some kind of a responsibility if it is in Capricorn. We do have the sun in Capricorn as well, and Capricorn again is Saturn energy. It's very dense. It can be very heavy energy. In Tarot, Capricorn energy is connected to the devil, not because it's evil, it has nothing to do with that, but because it is that heavy sense of energy. But both of them had this desire for stability. It just kind of like didn't work out. Also, of course, both were wealthy in this connection. It's not a very romantic connection. I mean, in the second house it could be, because it's a Venus house, but then it is in Capricorn, and that's kind of like can be a harsh energy. However, we do have the sun sextiling Saturn. It's the planet of commitment in the sign of commitment. Capricorn is the sign of commitment, so another indication that they could have made it work. This combination, the sun conjuncting Mercury, just highlights even more that they were intellectually compatible. And it's in the third house. Third house is the Gemini house. It is one of Mercury houses. It is the house of being intellectual. So they were very compatible when it comes to that. You also see the sun has only positive connections to the south nodes, which can indicate some positive past life connection. Then to Saturn with stability, but also here with Pluto, the transformation aspect, and Uranus, which can highlight something spontaneous going on between them. But this aspect, it made it hard for them to have that happiness that Jupiter kind of like brings, to make it long last, that emotional fulfillment. It's not a tough aspect, even though there's a red line, it's not a very, very tough aspect. With this aspect, Pluto and Saturn, again, Saturn is commitments. They could have made it work if they had done the transformation work. With Mars in the first house, there is sexual attraction going on, and also maybe sharing the same kind of activities, having fun. But you see Mars only has squares going on here, and so there may have been the lack of putting in the work to make it last, which again is somewhat unfortunate, because they have some beautiful connections. I don't think it was a toxic connection at all, even though they of course had some squares and that stuff going on. It gave them the possibility to heal, to transform. And I don't know, maybe if they do meet again, they do make it work. The possibility is there. that it could work if they maybe kind of like work on that, like finding some sense of action, working on it, some kind of like sharing some kind of, what is the English word? I'm sorry, English is not my native language, so sometimes I'm short of words. Some kind of activity. They do share the intellectual stimulation, but maybe they had different hobbies or something like that, that they were not compatible in that department, or not always compatible in the sexual departments. That could have been as well. But all in all, it does show some kind of potential, to be honest. And we do see here is a lot of earth going on, and earth is the element of long-lasting. So do I think that they are divine counterparts? It's hard to say. I don't think they're twin flames. They do have strong aspect of that it is a high-level soul connection. We do see that. So yeah, they may be divine counterparts. That is up for them to decide. There is free will after all, but they do have aspects that would highlight at least a very high close soul connection, high level soulmate. Definitely twin flames, I don't think so, neither monadic nor split twins, but nevertheless a beautiful connection, most likely. Of course there are some things to learn. I believe those you have in every connection, but overall it does look like a beautiful connection between those two. We do have some strong aspects. You'll probably see by the date and time here I chose to film an addition to this video because I was still wondering, why did they break up? I mean, everything we said so far indicated that there may be some issues, some possibilities to transform, but still they couldn't ground their relationship. And I wanted to find out more why this might be the case. And what I did is something that I basically channeled. I don't know if other astrologers do that. I don't know if there's any programs that do that. This app, AstroSeek, or it's not an app, the site, I don't think does it. I have never heard about doing that from any other astrologer. It is just, since I am a medium, something that I channeled on doing when you are looking for soulmates and twin flame astrology, because again that is what I specialized on, and most things I'm teaching here are my own research and channeling that I got from spirit. So what we did here is, you may remember, this is the composite chart of Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston, and the composite is like the birth chart of the relationship. So what I wanted to do is apply this to their individual birth charts to see how, like in Synastry, in Synastry we checked how do they, how's their energy between the two of them, how do they, what is the word? React with each other, and also the influences on one another. And here I want to, instead of taking one person's birth chart and then, like in Synastry, place it on top of the other person's birth chart to compare them, we want to take the relationship and then placing that upon each individual person. So I did check this already, and I took some notes, because unfortunately we will have to switch back and forth. Again, I don't know how to place this above their birth charts, okay? But I'm going to explain what I'm doing. Right here we do see we have the sun in Capricorn. It is down here, and you can also read it here. It is in Capricorn at 24 degrees, Capricorn. So I wrote it down, but keep it in mind, the sun is at 24 degrees Capricorn. And then we have to do this manually. We're going to Jennifer Aniston's, and Capricorn is down here, and 24 degree would be around here. You see this little, I can show you if you go down, just a second, about here. You know, each of these would be 30 degrees. So 24 degree would be here. And then we just check if the sun would be about here. Does it do, does it influence another planet? You know, the sun of their combined relationship. How does the relationship influence Jennifer? So not how does Brad influence her, but the relationship itself. And what I did, I was first of all checking, is there any other planets around here to form conjunctions? No, we don't have any. And then the opposite would be Pisces over here, Cancer over here. And you see there is nothing really going on. We do have the MC here, which again would just highlight public image. But right here we don't see anything. Then I checked for trines. The trine of 24 degree, 24 was somewhere over here. That would be 20. I pointed out 19 earlier, sorry. 24, of course, would be here. Would there be a trine? And then we check Taurus, 24 degree. No, there's nothing going on. Then we check Virgo, and we do have Pluto here at 24 degree, actually. Which means there is a trine between the composite sun and Jennifer Aniston's Pluto. And Pluto is transformation. So this indicates that their relationship had the effect on her of transforming something. And when it's the sun, it could have been something about her own energy, about how she radiates into the world, how she shows up, you could say, you know. Also, of course, since she's an artist and the sun is combined to art, to creativity, it could transform her in that way as well. Then what I found out is we check for trines, and now we are checking for squares. So again, the sun would be here, and then a square would be over here, about over here, you know, and then the other one would be over here. So we do have, unfortunately, squares, and between the composite sun, and we do see that there is a square that would be basically connected to the ascendant and the descendant. The ascendant is your own sense of self, and the descendant is more like the person you would attract. And that can indicate a clash of wills, that maybe some of them was bossy and that they had different opinions about the relationship. So that is a factor that can be a bit troubling. Now we are checking the same for Brad. Again, remember the sun is at 24 degree Capricorn, and he has a lot of Capricorn going on here. So we do have conjunctions here between his moon and his Venus. His moon is at 22 degree Capricorn, and Venus is at 23 degree Capricorn. So the sun, the combined sun at 24 degree Capricorn, of course, forms a conjunction on two of his personal planets, which means that this relationship itself had an effect on him, and it had an effect with the moon when it comes to his own emotional feelings, and also, of course, Venus, which is love. So he felt good for a while, at least for a while. He did feel very good in this relationship. The sun and combining the moon is a very nice conjunction, because the sun is supportive, and in Synastry, when you have positive combinations between sun and moon, the moon person, in this case Brad, would feel very much getting something from the sun. Support is the word I was looking for. So he did feel that connection in a very warm way, and it supported him, and there was love going on with this connection here, definitely. A lot of emotional support. And then what else did I write down? It is also trining his MC. The MC, especially famous, important for famous people, was lighting up his public image. This relationship, as long as it lasted, it made him look good to the public image. So that's another very, very positive benefit he got out of that relationship. So let's go to the moon. The moon, we do have the moon in the composite over here. It's Capricorn as well. So they have sun and moon in Capricorn. And that by itself is something that means a long-lasting relationship. It can indicate a relationship that is serious. Both people want it. Both people put in the effort. Both people want to commit, because Capricorn is connected to Saturn, which is commitment, but also, and that is why some people call it karma. It can be heavy, it can feel very dutiful, and it can turn into a relationship where you commit to one another, but at the same time you feel like it's getting hard. You can't really get out. It's like, yeah, I'm in, even though the light-hearted energy maybe has gone after a while. So it's so serious, and that can be one thing that is draining. So having sun and moon in Capricorn can be a bit rough, and it's something like a give and take. You can make it work. You can absolutely make it work if you do the work that is required here, because again, it's very serious, and you will have to find other things, playful things. You need to have playful energies, like they have here, for example, Mars in Sagittarius. Mars is talking about activities and sexuality, and Sagittarius is a bit of a wild card, you could say. It's a fun energy. Sagittarius is playful energy. So unfortunately, you see we have all the squares here. You know, if you wouldn't have the squares, maybe that playful side would have saved this relationship. That is in itself very dense and serious. But again, we do have the to Jennifer. 8-degree Capricorn would be around here. We see no other placements around that, so we have no conjunctions. The opposite would be about here. We don't see anything here, so there's no oppositions as well. Then checking for trines, we do have Virgo here. There's nothing going on. No trine here and no trine there. Then we check for squares, and we don't really want squares connected to the moon, because the moon is so emotional. For me, one of the strongest aspects, and squares can make it very hard, because then you don't get emotionally fulfilled, which is very important. Of course, you want to feel emotionally fulfilled in a relationship, and if there are squares, then remember, squares are somewhat karmic. It is something you can resolve, but you need to work on it. Everything can be resolved, especially when you learn about manifestation. Then you can learn, yeah, once I change my inner beliefs about myself and the other person and the relationship, I can create a new energy. So you can transform a square into a trine by tapping more into another energy that you actually have, or you can turn it into a positive aspect. So squares can be overcome, but again, it does require some kind of work. But still, with the moon connected, it is a bit more difficult, because the moon is our very vulnerable side. So again, we do have it at 8-degree in Capricorn, and a square would be around 8-degree Libra. And we have Jupiter here at 5-degree Libra, and that is not very nice, because Jupiter is connected to the Sagittarius energy and Pisces energy as well. It is connected to growth, abundance, fun. It's the lucky placement. Jupiter is connected to luck, and when we have a square between the moon, our emotional needs, and the planet of expansion and luck, it is not as bad as it would be with other planets, because Jupiter in itself is a very, very positive placement. So worst would be no Jupiter connections for expansion and fun, but a square, it's still somewhat positive, but it takes a bit away from the positivity. Okay, so you may have to learn to really overcome that square energy to tap more into the Jupiter energy, into that playful energy. So that is something that can be something that kind of needs to be overcome. But unfortunately, when we do have it at 8-degree Capricorn, we also we need like Uranus here in this case. Uranus, Uranus square can be a bit tough as well, because maybe the breakup completely came out of the blue for her. Uranus is sudden shifts and changes. It can be for the better, but it can be for the worse when it is a square. I personally like Uranus energy, but I'm an Aqua moon, so I naturally possess some of that energy, and that is why I kind of like it. Uranus energy also very much reminds me of the tower in Taurot. I don't think Uranus is officially connected to the tower. There would be Mars, but to me the tower would be Uranus, because Uranus is like out of the blue, all of a sudden change. But even more important is we do have the nodes here. We have the south node here and the north node here, and a square between the moon and the nodes is not really good, because again a square indicates something karmic. Karma is nothing bad, it's just something that is unhealed. It's not imbalanced, it needs to be balanced. And the nodes are our dharma, where we're coming from, our karma, where we want to go. And when that clashes our emotional needs, that can be a bit rough. And since it was not her own emotional needs, it's in this relationship, it clashes her emotional needs, which means it gave her some kind of transformation. We're talking about Pluto as well, but it kind of also held her back in a way. So that is a thing that is very important when it comes to the moon. What else did I write down? I wrote down Moon square Venus. Yeah, we do have that here as well, of course. And Moon square Venus, again, it's a tough one. That one is a tough one, because the moon are our emotional needs, and Venus is the planet of love. And that again shows with the square that our emotional needs, or that this relationship did not really feed our need for love, our need for being nurtured when it comes to Venus. And it does create a strong attraction though. Yeah, it does. When Moon and Venus or Mars, something like that, are connected, that is a strong connection also, because it is a square. Squares don't always have to be something that is negative, not always, because squares cause some kind of a friction. Especially, you have to have some very positive connections as well, something very harmonious. But squares can cause friction that is keeping the relationship, the opposite of boring, excited. For example, my twin flame and I, we do have in our composite a Venus and Mars square, and that can be something very positive. That means that you are not in this kind of relationship where you just get boring, like brothers and sisters, and your sex life gets boring. Instead, it spices it up. There is spice, there is fighting for each other, not with each other. It can be with each other. It can be with a square. That is why I always say you need to check what other influences you have. For me, for example, in my twin flame, we do have very positive connections with those planets, and also they're in very harmonious houses, and not just houses, and very harmonious houses and signs. So that is important as well. What house, what signs, are there more squares involved, or are there trines involved? So it does not necessarily have to be a bad thing. It can be chaotic though. Again, it depends on so many things. You can't just take one factor and say, okay, it is so. You have to look at the whole picture. The problem is it can cause that her love language was not fulfilled in that relationship. It can cause emotional disturbances, and often also it can make a couple stay together even though they're not emotionally fulfilled anymore. It's especially what we saw here. We had that here as well. We're in it because we're in it, and because we committed. We may not be happy anymore, but we committed, and that can be that kind of energy, which of course nobody should stay in a relationship when they're no longer happy. They can work on making it happy again, or leave it. But it's not good to stay in any kind of relationship when you're just not happy with that person anymore. But again, when you learn about manifestation, you can of course flip the switch around to get more into the happy energy again. But again, this one is a bit of a rough one, and it can be, I don't think it was with them because they did have some very harmonious aspects, we saw that earlier, but it can cause some kind of a love-hate relationship in the worst case. Yeah, what often happens as well is that they're in different moods. You know, one is in the mood of going out, and the other one is in the mood of just staying home and cuddle. You know, that there is a mismatch on moods in different situations. You know, like, what's the saying, like ships passing each other in the night or something like that. And that of course can lead to dissatisfaction. Let's check Brad. Again, we saw the moon is at 8 degree Capricorn, and you see right away we do have his Mars there. And that can of course, his Mars, and again that can mean that he felt like this relationship held him back. He couldn't go to where he wanted to go. It was like his dharma. It's an indication of a past life relationship. And it is good when you go into the same direction. Then you can have aspects with your South Node as well. That is not a bad thing necessarily when you have aspects that show you, yeah, they're going into the same direction. But that might not be the case here. However, with the connection between their relationship moon and his personal Mars shows strong sexual attraction, at least in the beginning, and it does indicate some kind of a past life with the South Node as well. And yeah, this can be a relationship that is very good in the beginning, because Mars can be energy that is very fiery in the beginning but does not necessarily have stamina. However, it is in Capricorn that can commit. Again, it's the planet of commitment, so maybe he made it work for, or tried to make it work for a while, even though he wasn't happy anymore. Then we do have it squaring Uranus over here, and a square, trining Uranus, and that is actually a very good thing, because we said earlier Uranus is sudden change and shifts, and with a trine there are positive changes and shifts. But if he's a person who likes a bit more action, that is something that can get boring. Trines are amazing, I love trines. However, it can get boring if it's too harmonious. That's why we sometimes want that little friction. You don't want it in a way that it's toxic, but we want it in a way that keeps a couple interested in one another. And maybe that is one of the things that didn't keep him interested, because I think later on he said that this relationship got too boring for him, if I remember that right. So maybe there was not enough change for him within the relationship. And then we also have a square to Jupiter, and that's what I said earlier, maybe he didn't feel like it grew as much as he wanted to, since Jupiter is the planet of growth and happiness. So that is something that, yeah, maybe didn't really satisfy him. So let's go to Venus. We're not covering all of the planets, we're covering the Sun, the Moon, Venus, and I wanted to see Pluto because that is basically transformation. And did we do the notes? We did Saturn. I don't think I made, but we can do that later. I didn't take any notes for the notes, but we can do that together. Anyway, Venus, let's go to Venus. Let's skip Mercury. Venus is at 1 degree Pisces over here, you can see it. So we're going to Jennifer, and 1 degree Pisces would be here. We don't see anything in that vicinity. The Sun at 23 degree, it's kind of weak. It can indicate that, yeah, it made sure loved in the beginning at least, but it's not a very strong connection with an 8 degree orb. We don't see anything on the opposite side. We don't have anything at 1 degree Virgo. Let's check for trines. There's nothing at 1 degree Scorpio or around that, nor in Cancer. which means her Venus is pretty much unexpected. And yeah, Venus is how we feel loved and how we love. So that can be an indication why it didn't last. And let's check out Brad. Again, it is around here at 1 degree Pisces. Let's check for oppositions. We don't really have any, that's too far apart. We don't have anything at 1 degree Scorpio or Cancer. So no oppositions, no trines. We don't have, do we have squares? Nope, there's nothing going on here nor here. So his Venus is unexpected as well, which is something you don't really want to see in a relationship. It means that maybe after a while they didn't really feel loved by each other anymore. So let's check Pluto. Pluto is the planet of transformation. It's at 19 degree Virgo. So it is over here. And let's check Jennifer. Pluto, 90 degree Virgo. That would be somewhere over here. It kind of does conjuncture Pluto, but in Synastry, Pluto conjunctions, you can't. Pluto is a generational planet, so I would discard that, to be honest. But we do have a square with her moon that is at 23 degrees Sagittarius. And again, square Pluto can be a planet of amazing transformation, but also karma. It's either black or white. And a square in itself can be difficult, and then a square with Pluto and the moon, our emotional needs. Yeah, it's not the easiest placement. It can indicate someone really getting hurt. We're not talking about physical pain in this, but about someone emotionally getting hurt. And a square can say, yeah, there was a chance for transformation, but maybe that wasn't used enough. You could say it's a karmic placement. Again, karma is nothing toxic. It's just something that is unhealed. It's a chance. Karma is always a chance to grow, but you have to take that chance. And it could indicate that this transformation was kind of blocked because of the double square that they, not double square, but double karmic aspect, that it didn't go as it could have been. Let's check Brad. Again, it was at a 90 degree Virgo, and same thing, it does kind of like aspect his Pluto, but we discard that. We don't have anything 90 degree going on here, so we don't really have any oppositions or conjunctions. Let's check for trines. We do have a trine here. It's trining his Mercury and his Venus and his moon. So there was some, this relationship brought some kind of transformation to him. Maybe the chance of healing something from a past life relationship. I think we saw some difficulties between him and Queen of Patra, I believe. And maybe there's other relationships. So this may have caused a chance to healing, transformation for him. But remember, transformation can also mean learning what you want and also what you don't want. So there is something that was going on with him and it looks like he took that chance to learn something from it. And also it is the nodes. Yeah, I wrote down the nodes. The nodes are at 12 degree and we had 90, so it's a bit of a weaker aspect. But again, this shows that unlike her, we had the square with her, it transforms him more in a way. And I believe, yeah, he was the one who left. Maybe because he learned from this relationship what he had to learn and then got to move on. He was the one who moved on and she didn't have that choice. Very important is, of course, Saturn. Saturn is the planet of commitments and stability. So we do want positive Saturn aspects when we're talking about a relationship that needs to last, or that doesn't need, but you want to last. And we see it here at 20 degree Pisces. And what's very interested here is that we have Chiron conjunct. So Chiron again is giving the possibility to transform and heal. Unfortunately, here's in opposition to Pluto, which also means that in the relationship, oppositions are not like squares. Squares is some kind of karma that you can heal. Oppositions is more energy that will always stay, which means if they stay together, they will always grow. They will always expand, which doesn't have to be a bad thing at all. So don't be too scared of oppositions. It can be like a make it or break it thing, but it can be something that you can take to your advantage if you balance it well. But there has been some healing going on when it comes to patterns of commitments or not being able to commit in the past. So this is another chance they had. Anyway, we do have Saturn at 20 degree Pisces. Let's check Jennifer, Pisces 20 degree over here. There's nothing going on. The opposite is here. We do have Pluto on the out, which would indicate a karmic connection again that can give you the possibility to grow but doesn't have to. And then we do have a trine to her Mars, which is something positive. This can indicate that she was fighting for the relationship. She wanted a relationship, and she wanted to make it work in some kind of a way. But then, unfortunately, we do have a square to her moon, and that again indicates that they were not emotionally fulfilled, and we saw that again and again and again and again. It may, now that we're looking into it deeper, I remember first I said, well, I don't know why they didn't make it last. Now I see there may have been true emotions, but sometimes love is just not enough. You have to ground it, and again you can make it work. I know I say it a lot. That's because I truly believe it, and because also if you have similar things in your charts, I don't want you to be discouraged. You can make it work. But again, a square when it comes to the moon. Saturn again is the planet of commitment, but also of karma. A square indicates karma, so we do have difficulty here to really ground this connection or make it long last. It can be done, it really can be done, but it would require effort, because when you have a square to the planet of stability, responsibility as well, it's hard. And that's the thing, I mean, we have it here. This indicates in Capricorn, yes, it can be done. It can be done, but then we see here that we do have the difficulties in actually doing it, because this relationship affected them in a way that maybe it was too draining, or they didn't see that kind of grow. At least Brad maybe didn't see that kind of grow, and they, for that reason, didn't like feel as emotionally fulfilled as they would have wanted to feel. So it is possible, but it's difficult when you have a karmic connection between your emotional needs and the planet of commitments. It's rough. But let's check Brad. Again, it is a 20 degree Pisces. So we do have it over here. We do have the IC or the MC not so far away that maybe they made it last because of the public image for longer than it should have lasted. That would be a possibility, actually. But let's see what else we have. We don't have really anything else going on here. Let's check for trans. Yeah, we do have Neptune not too far away. And a trine between Saturn and Neptune it's a weird one, but it can be done. Because they're so opposite when it comes to energy. Saturn is so serious and it's connected to a very earthly life. In Tarot, Capricorn Saturn energy is depicted as the devil, And the devil has nothing to do with evil. It's just the very grounded energy. It's the opposite of the heavenly energy. It's the earthly energy. And Neptune is our dreams, our illusions as well. So a trine of those very different planets means that you kind of like balance your dreams and reasoning. So that is something that is kind of nice. But again, we don't want to talk too long about Neptune. More important are the personal planets. And we do have a square between Saturn and the Sun. And again, a square to Saturn and a personal planet. Saturn is commitment. Any connection between Saturn and a planet shows commitment. And they were committed for a while. But it can show that that commitment can become a burden. And I think that is what happened here. Again, it's not fulfilling. There is commitment because you committed and you want to make it work, but it may be emotionally draining. So that's another hint of that going on here. And also there is a very weak connection to the ascendant and the descendant, which can indicate it was hard to stay themselves. Maybe they merged too much into the other person and there was something unhealthy going on there, or you just couldn't really be yourself in that connection. So yeah, when we check that, it's a bit more serious and dense than what we did earlier with the Synastry. But again, it's just how did the connection affect them, each person, and it affected them both kind of similar and kind of different. And the similarities are that eventually both of them were not emotionally fulfilled, and then different because it seems like Brad grew out of it and took the initiative, whereas maybe Jennifer didn't really, or was not really able to take the possibility of growing as much as he did, and that is why she stayed behind. Do I still stand by what I said earlier, that they can make it work? Absolutely, you can make it work. And I want to remind you, any connection between Saturn and a personal planet is a chance, even if it's a square. More difficult is if you don't have any connection between Saturn and a personal planet. That is way more hard. A square shows that at least there is a connection, and you just have to work on that connection to turn it into something more harmonious. Whereas no connection between Saturn, that would be rough to live that long term. So yeah, let me know what you think about my approach on doing that. Maybe you have heard of that technique before. Let me know. I know I came up with it, but I'm probably not the only person, because Spirit is talking to many people, and you will also hear many spiritual teachers say the same stuff. Because why would Spirit tell every person something completely else? That wouldn't make any sense. So maybe you've heard of that. Let me know what you think, and leave comments. Please check out my other stuff, and I wish you all the best. Bye bye.